Hey guys, I'm Katie. I'm the founder of Kokomo here in Vancouver, Canada. We have 2 locations that we opened up in the last 2 years, and our third one is coming at the beginning of January. And I'm just excited to share some of the tools that I use so that you guys can get up to big things in 2020 and beyond. The primary channel that we use to connect with our audience is through Instagram. So we've actually used this as a tool to build momentum before we even open the doors to Kokomo. Instagram's been really great for us because yes, it allowed us to create this momentum so that when we actually opened the doors, people already knew about us. It was so crazy. It was so crazy to me that people outside of my friends knew about us. But what was happening is I had my closest friends following. And when we opened, everyone knew about it because we shared it in real life and also through Instagram. And what was happening was these people in real life were showing up, experiencing the brand, taking photos of it because it was really important that I created this aesthetic that was Instagrammable, I guess you could say. So people were then sharing that in their channels, and then that was going to their network. And then again, people were showing up in real life. So it was this like real life to digital thing that kept happening. And I really attribute that to our Instagram strategy. So first I'm going to share my story with goal setting and really what's worked for me over the last few years. And then from there, I'll share some key tools that you guys can take away. So I've always been a goal setter, but when I say that, I would actually say I haven't been very active in it. So I would get to a place in my life where I just felt like I wasn't excited about what was happening, and I just had this desire to create something new for myself. And so it would literally be 1 hour out of my life, and I would go and I'd sit down and I'd write down all the things I want in my life: a new job, make more money, new home, a boyfriend, feel confident, exercise, all that good stuff. I'd literally write it down, and I would walk away from it, and somehow I'd lose a piece of paper, and I would probably never think about it again. So I would set these goals, but what I found was when I say I wasn't active, in that I wasn't really pursuing them. I wasn't like doing all the different steps to really make sure that I hit these big scary goals. The crazy thing about that though, even though I only took one step in writing it down, I would move, which by the way was all my goal. I would move and I would find an old piece of paper, an old notebook, and I would see the list of all these goals, and I couldn't even believe it. I would actually have achieved every single one of them. So that kind of got me thinking like, wow, just by writing something down, I can actually make something happen. What if I started to write down like really scary things, like things that literally don't even exist in this universe? And how could I actually go at achieving those? So as business owners, we actually have the luxury and the privilege to decide what we want in our personal life and then ladder our business goals into that. To be honest, like that excites me more than anything, that those two worlds, like our entire world is holistic because we actually are creating our business. No one else is telling us what we need to do with our 9 to 5 hours in the day. And we get to create our life around that, or vice versa. If I really think back to the beginning of what Kokomo was, it honestly wasn't even a brick and mortar place. I had no idea what I wanted it to be, but I was really clear on one thing, and that was that I have a stupid amount of energy. I haven't had any coffee today. I have a stupid amount of energy, and what I realized is that I really wanted to use this energy to affect people on a day-to-day basis and actually create like a positive impact in their lives. I was working more in like marketing and strategy and things like that, and I loved it and I put every single thing I had into it, but at the end of the day I just wasn't seeing how that was actually like affecting someone on a day-to-day basis. Maybe a campaign would create some thought and some conversation, but I really wanted to like be out there on the ground, like actually creating experiences for people, and that's what I'm best in the world at. So that was what I was clear on, and that's all I knew. When people asked me about my goals, I would just say, I want to create experiences for people. And that's it. They would ask more information. I had no more information, but I was really clear on that. And that was okay. So when I really think about when I first started sharing this goal, and like that real scary feeling that started to come up, it really roots back to this one day when I was interviewing actually for Lululemon for the head office here in Vancouver, Canada. And the hiring manager asked me to share a goal. So I actually shared a 5-year goal of mine to quit Lululemon and open up my own, whatever that was, my own X, to create these experiences for people. So you can imagine the look on her face when she hadn't even hired me yet and I was already telling her I was gonna quit. But spoiler alert, she did hire me, and 4.5 years later, I quit to open up Kokomo. Really what happened in between those 4.5 years wasn't linear. And I think that's something that's really important. I think when we set goals, we think it's gonna be like super linear and we're gonna write something down and we're gonna take the different tasks and hit the different milestones to really meet that big goal. But life is so messy and so much is gonna happen in the period of 1, 4, 6, 10 years that you just gotta allow whatever you're attracting to just happen. And at the end of the day, the beautiful thing about goals is that you're putting it into your subconscious and it just kind of points you in the right direction. There's gonna be a lot that happens, but at the end of the day, like, time is gonna move forward no matter what. So for me, I would rather just have a bit more of a say in where my body moves or where my soul moves into that time as it's moving forward. All the crazy tangents that my life took in those 4.5 years ended up just allowing me to like gather more research and intel into what I wanted to create for the world and what the world needed from me. So through that, I actually became vegan, which I never thought I'd do. I thought that was so extreme. But I, at that point, would do anything for my health. And so one of those things was to stop eating dairy. So in becoming vegan, I started to look for more restaurants and cafes here in Vancouver that could really support me in this lifestyle. And I wasn't really seeing anything. And at the same time, I became really creative in the kitchen, creating all these new dishes, learning how to cook without dairy. And it was like really eye-opening to me, like how you can really support, like how I could support my own body through just the food that I was cooking. And so there's kind of this piece also with me at Lululemon having this role and really getting to travel and meet so many people and see all the different studios and lead this massive life that I really realized that there's a shift in the way that we move throughout our days as humans in this day and age. And so while I was leading that lifestyle of leaving the house at 6 a.m. and coming home at 11 p.m., I realized that there was a gap in how food was supporting me throughout the day. So with all these different tangents that were happening in my life, I was just gathering information and just coming home and almost like a little squirrel, just like tucking it away. And then just slowly working on getting back to my vision and realigning myself and just getting really clear on what that looks like as I started to get more and more healthy. So bit by bit, things started to take shape and I started to realign myself with what that vision looked like for me. And in this, I started sharing it. And that was so scary because I had originally shared this goal, this really lofty goal, like I want to create experiences for people. But now it was really starting to take shape. Like I knew I wanted to have 4 walls. I knew I wanted to serve food. I knew I needed a location. And things really started to like come up to the surface on like what my next steps were. And a timeline became really specific. So if I had said that 5-year goal, I think it was like, 3 years ago, I had about 2 years to actually make this happen. And people were holding me accountable to it. So my hiring manager who hired me in the beginning was still my manager. And she continued to remind me that I was coming up on my 5-year goal. And that was really important. To be honest, I hated her for it. Anyone who would ask me about my goal, I was so annoyed by them. I probably avoided them. Actually, I totally avoided them. But at the end of the day, that like held me accountable and I started sharing it with people. And I started telling like as many people as possible that I was gonna open, at this point, it was just an acai bowl shop. I was gonna open an acai bowl shop and I was gonna do that in the next 2 years and it was gonna be in Vancouver and that I was looking for a location. So it's kind of crazy how your people will hold you accountable and they'll actually get to work for you. So as much as I wasn't in control of finding a location, the amount of people who I had someone send me their leasing agent. I had people sending me photos of spaces that were available all the time. Like I actually couldn't avoid this goal any longer. I had to go after it. I did allow myself to like drag on my heels and just blame that, I haven't met this goal yet because I don't have a location. It's so hard to find a location. Vancouver's terrible. I got into that whole spiral. So what I decided to do is break it down to 1 year. What are 2 things that I really need to get done in the next year? Keep in mind, I still had a full-time job. I was traveling a lot still for work. And so I really wanted to get clear on like, what are those things that I want to do on top of this? So what I knew was I needed to create a business plan and I needed to find a location. With the business plan, that was non-negotiable. I knew I needed that to bring on a lender. I needed that if I wanted to find a lease. I was so new in this world in business and Kokomo didn't exist. And so I really needed to prove the business concept to anyone who wanted to get involved with Kokomo. The business plan was the most daunting thing of this entire process, if I'm being really honest. I saw it as this Bible that I had to create and all these words that weren't written. And even though I had the concept and I was just so clear on what this was gonna look like, really putting onto paper was really hard, but it was the best practice I could have done. So what I ended up doing was I just broke it down. I realized I'm not gonna do the whole thing in one weekend like I prefer to do everything in my life. I was gonna have to actually work on this every single night. I treated it like I was in school and I had a homework assignment. So I'd finish my 9 to 5 or whatever my day looked like, and I would go to the cafe across the street and just sit there for an hour or essentially do one section, whatever came first. And then by the time you knew it, it actually only took me 3 months and I had the entire business plan built out, and I was able to actually then send it to all the banks and the different nonprofit organizations that were supporting me and to my leasing agent so he could actually enroll potential landlords in taking me on. So the cool thing about doing this daily is that it actually became a part of my day-to-day life and it really was top of mind. So people would ask me what I'm up to. I'd say, oh, I'm working on my business plan, and it created a lot of conversation around it as well. So I just continued to share my goals with people all the time. And really what came after that just unfolded in front of me. And I think it was truly because it was top of mind, it was in my subconscious, and I was sharing it with everyone I know. So like I said, I was looking for a location, and that was a really easy one for me to fall back on and say, oh, well, I can't find a location, so I can't actually live into this goal that's scaring me so much right now because it's coming up so close. And people started doing the work for me. So when I got scared and I backed off it a little bit, people started to do that work. And I was getting calls from people saying, I found this location for you. I found a leasing agent for you. You need to go look at this. And I got the biggest call I could have ever asked for, and it was from my friend here in Vancouver, and someone had approached her to see if she wanted to move into this location because she was more established than me. And the first person she thought of when she realized it wasn't right for her was me. So she ended up calling me and connecting me with this potential landlord, and there you have Kokomo's first location was born. So when it really comes down to it, sharing my goal with as many people as possible is really what held me accountable, what held things top of mind for me, and actually at the end of the day is what really allowed it to come into physical form, and I was able to actually find that location. I would have never found that location on my own. I needed the support of my people to help me with that. Even though all this work was done for me and someone actually found this location for me, if you've ever tried to sign a lease, you'll know that there is a long period of time between offer and actually having the keys in your hand. And this can be this is totally out of your control. It's really a period of you're waiting, you're hoping, you're wishing, you're negotiating, and hopefully at the end of the day, you have those keys. So in this period of time, that's when I just had to be really clear on what I wanted and actually every single day envision myself in that space. What would that feel like? How would it look? What would it look like when a guest walked through? What would that experience actually feel, taste, smell like? And so I had to get really clear on that. And then my practice that I did each day is when I was out for a run, or if I was spinning, or if I was in meditation, I just held on to a few mantras that really just reminded myself of what I wanted to invite in. So I remember running and just continuing to say to myself, I'm ready, I'm ready, I am ready. Because I really wanted the universe to know that I was ready for this next step, and I'm there, and I wanted to invite this in fully. Okay, so that really was my experience with vision and goal setting over the last 5 to 10 years. And I'm not sure if you picked up, but there was basically 5 steps that showed up there for me. First of all, I had to realize my vision. Second of all, I had to write it down. Third, I had to really create a work back with some real achievable milestones. And then fourth, I needed to share it with every single human possible. I'm sure you picked up on that one. And number 5 is that daily practice or manifestation. Okay, this is when things are gonna get good. We're actually gonna take those steps and apply them to your goals now. So for the sake of this exercise, because I don't have any of you in front of me, I'm gonna share my 10-year vision with you, which is super scary for me, and then apply that to these steps and really take you guys through what the daily practice looks like of vision and goal setting. The first step is obviously realizing your vision or realizing your goals. So this one can feel really daunting and really scary. And I think it's really what stops people from actually going down this goal practice, is because it just seems crazy to think about what you'd want in 10 years. But I'm gonna help you guys get there. We're gonna ask a bunch of questions, and I think we're gonna be able to do this in a more digestible way. And to be honest, it's kind of fun. You just get to like dream up whatever you want in your life. So what I want to do is, I know that this is more business oriented, but I want to get really clear together on like what you want your life, your holistic life, every single thing in it to look like in 10 years. And then we can work back from that. And from there, you'll get really clear and really specific on what needs to happen in your business. But for the point of this exercise, let's just take it a step up and a step back and get really clear on the holistic life that you're going to have in 10 years. So why do we use 10 years? Well, basically, we just need to choose a time frame that feels far away. And the reason for that is, if I said 2 years, you know it's possible, or you think you know it's possible. You don't think you can make X amount of money. You don't think you can create X. You don't think you can live in this incredible country that you want to live in, because it literally feels like tomorrow. Like, you are so aware of your action items. But if you think 10 years out, maybe it's 8 years for you, maybe it's 20 years out, anything is possible. And your brain actually like checks into this different part, more of like a dreaming, more of like a Pinterest place than an actual like to-do list. And so this removes any obstacles of like money, time, environment, and essentially what's possible. And you can get a little crazy and think way bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna take you through a vision setting exercise. I'm gonna read out a bunch of questions to you. We're also gonna provide this in written format, so you can have this exact same experience with a friend and have them ask you these questions as well. So I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes. Okay, so first of all, I want you to get really clear. 10 years from now, how old will you be? What does it feel like to be this age? What does it feel like around you? What do you see around you? Is there a scent in the air? Are you tasting anything? What are you eating? What are you wearing? What does your clothing feel like on you? Who are you with? Who do you love? Who loves you? How are you contributing to your community? What are your achievements? Who looks up to you? What are you helping to bring into the world? What excites you about your day ahead? What are you known for? Lastly, what is the one word that comes to mind right now? So now that you're really grounded in what your life really could look like for yourself in 10 years, what I like to do is take it a step further. So maybe I like to envision, like, what does a day in the life of that life look like? And get really clear on some of those details. Whatever that looks like for you, there is no prescription to this. Just as clear as you can get on that feeling or those specifics and details works perfectly. So from here, once we're really clear, we're gonna write it down, and that's step 2. The fun thing about writing it down, well, the scary thing is it's probably gonna come true. And the fun thing is that it's literally like your wish list to the universe. And it's kind of crazy to see how things really start to move into motion once you get this pen to paper. As I'm saying this, I'm realizing it's now time for me to share my vision, my 10-year vision with you, so that we can move through this practice together and I can show you what it looks like to go through all the steps. By 2030, I'm gonna live somewhere warm by the ocean with Chris. I'm still gonna be creating experiences for my community, but it's gonna look a little different. I'm gonna make $1 million in salary per year, and I'm gonna be creating content for a mass audience through different forms of media. All right, so that was step 2. And now we're going to move over to step 3, and that's about creating achievable milestones. I'm going to break it down by 10, 5, and 1 year. 10 is basically my vision just put into words again, with kind of just reorganized in a different way. And then 5 year works back from there, like halfway. Basically, I take my 10-year goals and then I divide them in half and figure out what I need to do in 5 years. 1 year, I look at it as my to-do list. Like when I wake up tomorrow, these are all the things I need to start working on right away. So like I said, the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is that once you get clear on your personal vision and goals, you can then create really strategic business goals to ensure that you meet those goals. So like I shared, and it's still scary to say it again, I'm gonna make $1 million in 2030. So now that I understand that, I need to get really clear on what my business goals are to ensure that I meet that goal. So for me, when I looked at my projections for Kokomo, what I realized is I need 8 stores, 8 locations total to create that revenue that I want to create for myself. So now that I've done that work, I've now written down here. So 10 years out, so 2030, I will have 8 Kokomo locations. I'm going to make $250,000 per year through Kokomo. And then, like I said, I'm going to have other revenue streams. I'm going to be connecting with a mass audience through different media. And so what that will bring in for me, my goal is $750,000 in 2030. And then the other piece, we can't forget, the most important piece is I'm going to live somewhere warm. So by 2030, I'm going to have found the perfect location for Chris and I to live in. And we'll actually be living in it in 2030. So as you can see, essentially my 10-year goals are just my vision put onto paper. It's just written in a different way that's a little bit more strategic and tactical. So I'm now going to bring this down to 5 years. So the way I do it is I take 10 years and I essentially divide it by 2. There's so many ways that you can go about it. Do whatever feels right for you. Also just looking at like what's achievable in that time and pushing it a little bit further. So for me, in 5 years, I will have 6 Kokomo locations. I will be making $150,000 through Kokomo that year and then $400K through my other revenue streams. I'll also have a media channel with a following of 100,000. So when I'm writing this and I get it from a business perspective, like we don't know where things are going. We don't know if like newspaper is still going to exist. We don't know what digital channels are going to exist. We don't know what's going to be new. Who saw TikTok coming? But what I know, so I like to keep it more broad, like media channel with 100K following. But when I look back on other goals, I actually had like a feature in the Vancouver Sun or a feature in Van Magazine. And just a side note, it's kind of crazy. I had those as my 5-year goal and they happened within 3 months. So it's okay to be as specific as you want, but if you don't know the answers, you don't need to write it down. So just remember that at the very beginning, all I knew for Kokomo was that I wanted to create experiences for people. Everything else took shape as I continued to learn about what that looked like for me. Okay, so now we're gonna bring this down to 1 year. 1 year is my favorite place. Actually, 10 years is my favorite place. When I close my eyes, I'm seriously there. Like I know what it feels like to breathe as Katie Riddell in 10 years. But 1 year really excites me because it's like, that's when you're really gonna get stuff done. That's the fun stuff. That's also the hard stuff. It's your to-do list for the next year and it's totally achievable. So for me on my 1 year, I just shared that in 5 years, I need to have 6 Kokomo locations. So what does that mean for 1 year? Well, we're going to have a 1 location downtown in Vancouver. That's our 1 year goal for Kokomo. From a Kokomo perspective, I also need to bring on an investor. So if I want Kokomo to be where it's going to be in 10 years, I need to bring on an investor to start helping us move at a quicker pace. There's a few other Kokomo things here as well. We're going to bring on retail. And then from an Instagram perspective, Kokomo will own a hashtag, and that will be Kokomo State of Mind. Hold me to it. Kokomo's Instagram is kind of like my baby. It's something that I actually have had a hard time letting go of. So even though we've opened our 3rd location and we have all of our managers and we have an incredible team, Instagram is really something that I still manage. And that may seem really crazy because I also have 1,000,001 things that I'm doing to continue to run the business. But Actually, later has made it really easy for me. So essentially like once a week or once every 2 weeks, I just sit down and I block the time in my calendar and I just look at like, what do we have coming up this month that we want to share? And what are some user generated content that we've been seeing that's come through that we love? And what is a new menu? Like what do we want to share? And so I'll then look at the next few weeks. And what I love is I can plug it all in, but then I can actually preview it and move things around. So I may plug it in like once every 2 weeks, and then once every few days, I just kind of go in and look at like what's making sense. How do we want to roll this out? But later has actually helped me so much because I have things happening in my day-to-day life and I can't stop every day at like 11:30 before people eat lunch to post something live. It's actually been really cool. Like I'll even be on vacation and I'll wake up and it'll say, Kokomo's posted a new post, and I literally don't even remember what I posted. I have to go and look. And it's actually kind of nice because I get to experience it like a guest as well. I just get to experience Kokomo the way you guys do as well. By 2030, I'll reach a mass audience by the media content that I create. This year, I'll have 10,000 followers on Instagram. So my strategy to get those 10,000 followers this year is I first need to start with consistent content. So what that means for me is I'm gonna make sure I post at least 3 stories per week and then 1 IGTV once a week. I've been doing this-ish, but it's time for me to get really consistent with that. And then another way I'm gonna get those 10,000 followers is by creating more intentional brand partnerships. So this year I wanna work with 5 foundational brands that I can actually create really curated content for. By creating consistent content and really curated content, it will allow me to really connect with my audience in a really meaningful way. So what I notice is when I am posting any content, so whether it's IGTV series or stories or just something with a partner, I realize that I get so much meaningful interaction with my audience through that. And so for me, I just want to continue that momentum. Once you've realized your achievable milestones that ladder up to your 10-year vision, it's really important that you do get as specific as possible, especially when it comes to metrics. So that will actually allow you to measure yourself and know whether or not you hit your goal. If it's something as as simple as like, I show up more powerfully on Instagram, that's subjective. You can measure that in any way possible. But if you actually say, I want to hit X number of engagement rate, or I want to hit X number of followers, or X number of posts per week, that really allows you to work towards something and have a benchmark to measure your success. So this time next year, I will have 30,000 K coming through other revenue streams. I'm gonna have 10,000 followers on Instagram, on Katie Riddell. So not only hold me to that, follow me. And I'm gonna create a YouTube channel. So if my long-term vision is to be creating mass media for a large audience, then right today, what that looks like for me is creating a YouTube channel and just like failing on it and figuring it out and really getting used to that medium. I'm not only gonna create a channel though, I'm actually putting a specific measurable piece to that. So I'm gonna have 1,000 subscribers to it. And then here's my fun one. I'm gonna be a guest on David Chang's podcast this year. Okay, so now we've created our work back. We basically have a recipe for how we're gonna meet our vision in 10 years, which is kind of crazy. It's like your roadmap for creating the dream life that you've always wanted. And you can see now how achievable it really is. If you just do those things in the next year, you're gonna be that much closer to your 5-year. Once you complete those 5-year, you're gonna be so much closer to your 10-year. So we've realized our vision, we've written it down, we've then created a work back from there, and we're clear now on what our 10-year goals, our 5-year goals, and our 1-year goals look like. And now it's time to start sharing those goals with people. And I know I've said this every single step along the way, but this step is also very scary because really at this point, you can now be measured for failure. And I think that's the reason I don't share my goals sometimes, is I get fear of if someone's gonna hold me accountable, or they're actually gonna check in with me in a year and realize that I actually didn't do that goal. And so, yes, that's true. They will hold you accountable, but the flip side of that is they're gonna hold you accountable. And there's so much beauty in that. And that's really why we're sharing it. The other piece of that is they're also gonna help, they're gonna support you. They love you. They wanna see you live out your wildest dreams. And so they're gonna show up for you in ways that you never even imagined. They also have their own network of people. So they're gonna see opportunities and be able to share that with you and think of you right away. And this is so helpful, and this really helps with that like magnetic field of just inviting things into your life. To remind you, I told everyone that I was looking for a location, and my friend got a call with a location that wasn't right for her. And instead of just saying no, thank you, I popped into her head, and I actually ended up finding our first location for Kokomo. So this step is really important. We need to share our goals with every single human possible. If you go on my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I share my goals there. And it's scary because it could actually deter investors if they see that, oh, Katie's actually not going to be living here in Canada in 10 years. That can be really scary. It can also be scary sharing that with my team. Like, they know that I'm not going to be at Kokomo forever. But I truly believe that it's really important. Like, this is actually what I want in my life. So I need to share this with people, no matter if I think it's not going to allow different things to be invited in. It will. Trust me, it'll all be okay. At Lululemon, they knew I was going to leave. I could have easily not been promoted or moved into specific roles or projects, but I was, and maybe I wasn't. Maybe I wasn't moved into like some higher up role because I knew I'd leave in a year. And that's okay. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm totally fine, and I'm living the life that I wanted to live. So to make this step even easier for you, the team at Later has actually created templates for you to share. So you can take those templates and fill them in with what your life will look like in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to share. Pop that in and share it on your stories. It's crazy the amount of response that you're going to receive back. Share your goals, whatever that looks like. If you write it down and leave it anonymously on someone's desk, do it. If it means you text a friend right now, if it means you fill out this template and you put it on your stories, if it means you just call up your mom and you tell her you have a secret you want to share with her, whatever that looks like, write it on your LinkedIn profile like I am. Just share your goals. This will create like tenfold the amount of success that you're going to see with your vision and goal practice. Close your eyes and get really clear on what it is that you want to invite in. So when I was trying to look for my first Kokomo, when I was looking for my first Kokomo location, every time I closed my eyes in the morning, I would literally imagine like what it was like to walk through that door and what the walls would look like, what it would smell like, what it was going to be like when I first had that first customer. That's all I thought about, was what that first customer was going to feel like and look like, and what they were going to say and what they were going to order. I'd go through that. So I just continued to go through this exercise in my head. So the other practice I like to do day to day to really allow those big things to weave themselves into my daily life is, I call it I am, I will. And essentially it's kind of like my moment in the morning, and I just write down 2 simple things. So it could be as simple as I am okay and I will receive love. So whatever that looks like for you, if it's laddering back up to your goals, I was just talking to my friend who's a freelancer yesterday, and she uses this every day, and she says, I am desired, I will receive work. We can provide a little worksheet where you guys can literally just see this written out with my example, and just do this daily. You can just do it in a notepad in your phone. That's where I do it. You can see the last like 20 years, or no, that's an exaggeration. You can see the last like 2 years of them, and you can actually really see when I was trying to attract a different location, or when I was trying to bring on a partner, or things like that. It's really cool. You can actually like see the trends in what I'm asking for and what I'm rooting myself in. And the coolest part is that I actually did end up attracting those things. Why I think this really works for me and other people is, it just like reminds you to think about that one thing for that one day. So what is it that you want to attract in, and how do you want to show up for the world that day? And it removes you from reaction and more into response. So when things are getting a little hectic and a little crazy, you just remind yourself like, oh no, I am X, I will this. And so even in that environment or in that situation or whatever that looks like for you, you can just quickly jump back into that place of how you wanted to show up. And again, just pointing your head in the direction of your vision and aligning yourself with that. So manifestation is really just setting yourself to a specific energy so that you're able to receive that energy that you're asking to invite into your life. It really just allows you to receive whatever it is that you want in. And so if you remember back to when I was trying to find a location and really get moving into those next big goals that I wanted to get after, when I'd go for a run or when I was in spin or just like somewhere where I was like breathing in meditation, really what was coming out of me was this mantra of I am ready. And it was telling myself, it was telling the universe, it was just setting me in this state where I truly was ready. I was ready for this massive leap of faith that I was about to do. And I think that really allowed me to invite some things in. There's a flip side of it, and actually Oprah speaks to this in her podcast, is you also don't want to be like attached to something, like claws in, like can't live without this thing. So with our second location for Kokomo, I took this really to heart and I really practiced it. So I practiced what it looked like to walk in those doors and what it felt like to be in that space and to actually be working in that space. I also, did my daily I am, I will in like, I am ready for my next location. I will receive a call from the landlord today. So I practiced those. And then there's this other piece though, where I really I tried on what it felt like to be there and be good with it and have that location, but I also wasn't attached to it. And I knew that I would be okay no matter what happened in life. However things unfolded, I was attracting it and it was supposed to go the way it was supposed to go, but it would be really nice if I had that location that I wanted, but I wasn't attached to it. And to be honest, my leasing agent doesn't even know that I practice manifestation daily, but he actually said to me, I must have manifested that second location in Kitsilano because I was at the bottom of the list of a long list of people who wanted it, and he actually truly didn't think that I'd end up getting it. And spoiler, I have the location now, and I really do think it just helped these practices that I was doing daily to just invite that into my life. Okay, so there you have it. You have all of my secrets to getting what I want in life. But essentially what we've done today is we've realized our vision, we wrote it down, we created really achievable milestones, we've shared it with every single human possible, including your dog, and we figured out how we can actually weave this into our day-to-day lives. So now that you guys have all these tools, I'm so excited to see how that works for you. I'm so excited to check in with you in a year. Please share your goals, use the templates that leaders provided, write down everything that you want to see attracted into your life over the next few years. Please tag me, tag later. We are so excited to see what you create for yourselves, and continue to keep in touch with me so that I can actually see how this starts to actualize over your life over the next few years. Thank you so much for your time.